Hello everyone, welcome to the first class. In this class, we're going to talk about timing and spacing. The reason I made this a first class is because timing and spacing is the single most important principle in animation. Yet no one really talks about it. At least not enough people are talking about it. It is a secret to a great, good-looking, awesome animation that people don't teach you that I'm about to unveil. If you only learn one thing in my entire course, I want you to take away with the understanding of timing and spacing. I can't stress enough how important it is. Everything else I teach beyond this class is based on this principle. So without further ado, let's jump right in.
So first, let's talk about what is animation. Put simply, we have a stick here, and people may say from A position to B position when it animates, that's animation. However, this is not really animation. This is only a movement or a position change. So what is animation? In my understanding, animation is everything that happened between A and B. Everything that happened between A position and B position. This entire thing in the center is animation. We'll elaborate more on that later on. In this lesson, we'll talk about the single most important thing in animation, the single most important principle. The overarching principle that will change how you animate every single thing for the rest of your life, the thing that you'll practice the most more than anything else if you want to be a professional animator. So what is it then? The thing that differentiates an amateur animator and a professional animator is the understanding of timing and spacing. If you understand timing and spacing as an animator, you will already be better than 50% of the animator out there. If you finish this course and do all the projects and understand the essential skills that we taught in here, I can guarantee that you will be better than 80% of the animator out there, because most of the animators don't know about these essential concepts and what makes up a great and professional animation. Next, let me explain to you what is timing and spacing in animation. This demo here is made available to download so that you can play with it, and it is beneficial to be able to understand how the object moves based on how you change your keyframes. Like here we have a stick and two positions. Let me just hide this and turn on this animation here. As you can see on the screen, first let's talk about timing. Timing is pretty simple. At 0 second here, I have a keyframe on this stick, and at 30 frame, I have another keyframe here on the position property so that the stick changed from one position to the next. And now if I play it, this is the animation that we get. What is timing then? As we all know, this animation, right now, it takes 30 frames to complete. And the 30 frames is the timing for this animation. That's the duration of the animation and also how long it takes for the animation to happen. That's timing. Easy to understand, right? However, not a lot of people know what is spacing and what a spacing means. Now let's say I want to make this animation faster. Make the stick to move faster. How do I want to do that? Some people may say, well, you can make the two keyframes closer so that we can modify the timing, and then now it moves faster. Instead of taking 30 frames, it can take maybe 23 frames to complete the animation, so that's faster. And another way might be just, let's go back to right-click, keyframe assistant, ease it, so that the animation is easing in and easing out. And it appears so the animation is faster. After these two ways, this is where most of the animators stop. However, there's much more to it. Some people ask, why is my animation so plain or boring? It doesn't look so smooth. It doesn't have the energy that I wanted. Here's the ultimate answer to all your questions. It is not the only two frames, A and B, these two frames that you're concerned with. As a professional animator, you are responsible for every single frame in your animation. What do I mean by every single frame? Let me turn on the interpolation. Every single frames from A to B, these are all the frames that the stick move in order to get from A to B. And as a professional animator, you are responsible for every single frame in this animation. Even though you can't see them, if I don't turn on the interpolation, most of the times, the only two frames that you see is beginning and end. But think about it for a second. Most of the time when we set up keyframe, we are only seeing the two keyframes that we set up, A and B, and ignoring everything else in between. All these. If you're only concerned with these two keyframes, A and B, and all you do is simply just ease the two keyframes, you're missing out on an infinite option that you could have on your animation by changing the spacing. That's why your animation looks so plain and amateur. The only way to become a professional animator is to take the responsibility of all of your in-between frames and manipulate them with a purpose. And the way to do that is by using timing and spacing. Now you probably understand what is spacing. All these in-between frames, one between another, these are called spacing. Remember, the timing that we have is the duration of the animation. Now you're only concerned with A and B, two positions, and the duration of the animation. And when we talk about spacing, that's when we talk about all the frames in between A and B and how we manipulate all the frames in between to create the animation that we want. So the next question is, how do we change spacing? Timing, as we all know, we can change the keyframe on the timeline here. Let's say I have two keyframes. I can easily drag the keyframes to change the timing. That's very simple. But now, how do we change the spacing? In After Effects, the spacing is actually controlled by a graph editor, which is hidden. That's probably why most people are missing out on it. It is this very little button here. Looks so simple and unimportant. However, this is probably one of the top 3 most important buttons in After Effects. Well, in After Effects, you got all these buttons and you got hundreds of effects, presets, and so many other tools in After Effects, but this button here is what you use 80% of the time for your professional work. I mean 80% of the time for your professional work. If you're missing out on this button right here, you're missing out on 80% of the possibilities of your animation. And that's why your work doesn't look so professional. But don't worry, since you're here, we are teaching you how to become a professional animator. And after this course, you will be better than 80% of the animators out there. Now let's come to a different composition on the left here, using keyframes demo to play with some of the spacing so that we can get different kinds of animation. You can see here, let's set the keyframes here to linear. Just hold down Command and then left click. Set the keyframe to linear. And now, if we preview this, you can see this is the linear animation that we get. However, if we select both keyframes and come to this graph editor to manipulate some of the spacing, right now, by the way, for the graph editor, there are 2 different types of graphs. One is value graph, and then the other one is speed graph. These 2 graphs works differently. We're going to talk about both in detail in the upcoming lesson. But for now, just bear with me. I'm going to show you some of the possibilities we have. First, let's come to the speed graph. And we can right-click Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. Now, once we make a default easing, you can see the spacing of the frames changed. Now we have more of the stick in the beginning and the ending of the animation, meaning they're moving slowly at the beginning and then moving slowly at the end. Now, let's drag this curve here, make it more dramatic. And now let's see what we have, what the animation looks like. Without changing the timing, it's still 30 frames. You can feel that the animation actually looks faster. If I make it even more dramatic, just drag this all the way, like this. Let's see what the animation we have. Now I can click on this hide all button. I can hide all these interpolation, just seeing the 2 frames at the beginning and the end without seeing any of the in-between frames. This is what the animation looked like. You can see it's got much more energy and then it's got character to it. It doesn't look so boring anymore. So this is a curve that we get here. And let's see if I change the curve like this, make it faster at the beginning, and then slowly coming to the end. Let's preview this. You can see now the stick moves fast at the beginning and then slowly comes to a stop. Another thing is right now you can see at 1 second, 0 frames. I have this curve all the way at the bottom here. This is a speed graph, meaning at 0 second, the speed of this object is 0. However, if I drag this up here, that means the object already has a speed coming into the frame so that it's not starting from 0. Let's preview this. So that's how it looks now. And now if we have a curve like this, the stick is going to move slowly at the beginning and then very fast at the end. Let's preview this. So it stopped very abruptly. Now you can see with the changing in spacing, we can get so many different options to our animation. This is what the in-between frames look like with our curve looking like this. If we show the comparison here, on top, we have the linear keyframes, and then at the bottom, we have the easing keyframes. However, at the bottom, we can modify the spacing of the frames however we want and achieve so many different possibilities to our animation. So that's what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you how many options you have with manipulating the spacing of the animation and what we can achieve. We'll spend most of our time in this course in Graph Editor. I'll teach you how to animate in here and to visualize animation based on the different graphs that we have. It'll take some practice, but I can assure you that you will get there by the end of this course. Once you're familiar with the Graph Editor and be able to adjust it with purpose, you will have full control of your timing and spacing and be able to take responsibility for every single frame of your animation. Thus, animate anything precisely to do whatever you like. Not only that, you will have the confidence of knowing you can do anything you want and not limited to the 2 keyframes and the system default easy ease, or use plugins to get the desired look. You will be able to achieve everything and anything manually with Graph Editor.